Welcome, friends. It is I, your LostScarf, and it's time for the newest guide, and it is the beginner guide to Arena. The idea here is a lot of people treat Arena as this casual mode, and they don't care about what they do. But there are people who really love this mode, and they love the strategy to it. So the idea here is to give you a good amount of information to get better at it, even if you want to be casual and have fun and just do whatever you want. With this information, you have things you can consider to do better and help your teammates out. And those of you who are hardcore at this, maybe there's things here you haven't thought about, didn't think about. So we're going to have that there. Now, we're going to have basic information at first, then we're going to go over important information some people might not know, or you probably do know if you really like the mode. Then just talking about roles and just kind of just ideas on what you might want to pick for your team. And then finally, just stuff to think about. Should you do this? Should you do that? Arena is a very casual mode. You can just play it and throw yourself at the opponent and just do whatever you want. But there is a deeperness to the strategy of the game if you really want to go at it, and we're going to go over that a little bit. So let's go ahead and get going. The basic information. Arena is a 5v5 mode where both teams have 500 tickets. Both teams have minions spawning every 20 seconds, and those minions will run across the field towards the opposing team's portal. All gods start at level 3, get a constant stream of XP, and 8 gold per second. You also start with 1500 gold. Now, the first team to cause the other team to hit 0 tickets wins the game. God kills are worth 5 tickets, minion kills are worth 1 ticket each. You can also make your opponent lose a ticket by getting friendly minions into the end portal. Every time your team gets 10 God kills, an escort appears. Getting this escort into the portal will make the opposing team lose 15 tickets. At 10 tickets left, the only way to score tickets is by killing gods, killing the big minion, getting minions into the portal, or by getting the escort into the portal. Also, there's buff camps on the sides that do not count towards ticket counts, and they respawn every 4 minutes or 240 seconds. Important information to think about. Now, the following are these important things you might not have thought about. That is, the first one is a big one that a lot of people don't actually know. This is crazy. Minion kills only count for tickets if a god gets the last hit. If a minion gets killed by another minion, it does not count. So you always want to have someone take out the minions. If you don't, then you're going to lose out on tickets, and that's not good for you. A very important one that people don't think about either is getting minions into portals. When you get a minion into a portal, it essentially counts as a 2-ticket difference between you and your opponent. Because when a minion goes into the portal, the opponent loses 1 ticket, but also there's a ticket they can't take away from you. So that is a difference of 2 tickets. So you want to make sure you get some minions into the portal. So you want to have someone take care of that, and think about that to help your team. Another one to think about, if you didn't really think about it, is escorts will not move forward if an enemy god is near it while allies are away. You notice this when you're playing the game. If you're near your tower, it'll move forward. If an enemy god's near your tower, it'll still move forward, but if you're not near it, it'll stop moving. That's how it works. You have to have someone near it for it to move forward if an enemy is near it or it just doesn't move. And another one that's really interesting to think about is escorts can be body blocked, but it can still move around that one person. But if you have 2 gods blocking it side by side, they can actually completely halt the thing and keep it there. That's an important thing to think about when attacking and defending your escort. Important roles. Now, I'm going to throw a lot of words at you in this section because it's about roles and things you should consider picking up for your team. And the thing about Arena is, because it is casual, you can go with so many setups and still win. You can do 5 Assassins and win. You can do 5 Hunters and win. 5 Guardians and win. 5 Mages. 5 anything and win. It's totally possible and doable. But you usually want a good mix of both sides if you want to be able to win consistently. And that's usually 2 to 3 physicals and 2 to 3 magicals. And there's certain rules you want to think about in the game. You want to at least have, and I'll just say the role names and then I'll explain them in a second. That is, like you want to have a janitor, a tank, a team burst, ADC finisher, healer, cleanser. Those are 6 different roles that you kind of want to have, and you can have gods that overlap into these different roles. And let's go over first in the order I went over, and let's go with the janitor. The janitor is usually a mage. Mages have a lot of big AoE attacks that are really good for clearing minions. Kukulkan's probably the best example of this. Puts down his wind, takes him out, and then he can just go do some other things. Poseidon's also another example. Vulcan, of course, is another example. There's just mostly mages are really good at doing that. Then you got your tanky god. This is usually a guardian or a warrior. They build tanky. They have different kinds of CC. They can distract the enemy very well. They can set them up for death with CC. They can peel them off teammates. A good example of this, of course, basically all the Guardians, Ymir, Athena, and then a lot of the warriors like Hercules or Tyr. They're really good at being annoying to the other team and setting them up for death. Then you want a team burst, and this is, of course, usually a mage. And that's usually, they just do these big AoE attacks that can just kill a lot of people and cause a lot of trouble. And that's like Poseidon, Vulcan. Mostly all the mages can be really good team bursters for the most part. And they can still clear very well as the janitor. So that's something to think about. Then there's, of course, your ADC. And this is, of course, usually a hunter. And they just build up a lot of damage through basic attacks. So they can just wreck people. So that you have the threat of team burst from a mage causing a lot of magical damage. but also the threat of a lot of physical damage coming out of someone like an ADC. Then you have someone that I'm going to call the finisher, and that's usually an assassin or warrior that's able to catch stragglers and kill them when they're alone, or take out low HP targets very quickly, or even just squishy targets. And the examples can be like Loki, Bastet, Sars, Thanatos, Mercury. Basically, a lot of the assassins are really good at catching someone alone and killing them, or catching someone low on HP and killing them. Really good at doing that, and it's usually an assassin who does it, but some warriors can do it as well. Example would be, of course, Osiris. Then you got your healer cleanser, generally a mage, of course, because that's Ra, Hel, Chang'e, and Aphrodite. They can heal the team, they have some CC to help out, and they have cleanses. And then, of course, you got gods that can just cover a bunch of different bases. Like Geb would be a tanky god who can, of course, do some cleansing. You get most mages can be janitors and bursters. ADCs, some of them can do janitor work. You just have varying degrees of things that other gods can do. And I say these 6 roles, and you can have a team of 5 that controls all those roles. You can have Hel be a healer and a cleanser for your team, and also be a janitor. You can have Hercules be the tank who just sets up some bad things for the enemy team. Anyhunter, of course, for the ADC. Loki just finishing people off. He can also burst a single person. You can have someone like Poseidon or Vulcan, who can destroy a big team, who can also clear out lanes very well, stuff like that. A lot of things to think about, but I think that's just a general idea there for those of you who are new to Arena, just thinking about what kind of mix do you want. Tanks really win games for your team. Janitors really win games. A lot of gods in the game are just good at bursting, and there's a lot of good ADCs and finishers and healers and stuff like that. But I think the most important ones is having someone take care of the minions and having a tank soak up a lot of damage and cause a lot of death for their team. Those are the 2 most important in my opinion. But that's my advice. You don't have to take it, but that's what I think. Things to consider. Now, at all times in Arena, there's usually 2 or 3 things you could be doing. Sometimes you make the right choice, sometimes you make the wrong choice. But here's some things to think about. First one is, are my teammates worth saving over killing minions? And that really depends on numbers. This is a numbers game thing right here. Let's say 2 teammates are on the right side of the map. They're fighting 2 or 3 gods. They could use some help. But also in the center, you see 10, maybe 11 minions you could kill. And the choice you should really make is kill those minions. Because 2 teammates dying is 10 points, while those minions are also 10 points if there's only 10 of them, or even 11, so you're ahead there. And your teammates could always get away and not die, while those minions, you lose those tickets to your own minions killing them, not so good. So if the numbers add up more for the minions, you should probably go for the minions instead of teammates. That's really what you should do. Of course, you've got to take into account how much your enemies will be fed from killing your teammates and stuff like that, but that's even more things to think about as you go, and we'll try not to get too far into that. But think on a simpler scale, just a numbers game. What is worth more? My teammates' lives or these minions for tickets? And that'll always be a math thing to think about as you go. Another thing to consider is the growth of roles. Now, at the start of a game, a tanky god is at their weakest because they don't have any tanky items yet. But once they start getting tanky items, the mid and late game, they're going to be insufferably hard to deal with. That's just what happens. Hercules is incredibly annoying to fight when he gets tanky. So you want to kill him as much as you can early in the game so that he's not tanky yet, so that he doesn't become a nuisance until later on. Same thing goes for basically any Guardian. And then, of course, you got Ares. Ares usually maxes CD, right? So he can do his ult every 54 seconds. So you want to do is you want to kill him as much as you can before it gets to that point, so you don't have to deal with that yet. Another example to think about is ADCs. They don't hit very hard early game, so you can kind of ignore them a little bit, or even just kill them so they don't get to their scary late game status as soon as they could be. Mages and assassins usually have good damage throughout, but they are kind of squishy as well, so you can consider getting fed off them. But really, I feel your biggest priority should be getting a tank before they can build tanky, and getting the ADCs before they can build for good damage. But really, those are things just to consider. What do you want to kill early? What do you want to kill later? And when you should start building pen for tanky target and stuff like that. There's just always things to think about as you go. Another thing is just looking at your enemy setup, thinking about their ultimates and just what abilities they have, and how that'll affect your team and how your team can affect them, and just think, what works well with this situation? Do I need to build beads, maybe weakening curse for heals, stuff like that? Like you're fighting areas, obviously you want to be spread out and build beads so that if anyone does get caught, they can get out of it and they don't have a bad situation. Same thing goes for a lot of other big ultimates, you just don't want to get caught in them, so think accordingly, what will help you out and help your teammates out? Now here's an interesting little tidbit, and that is, a single god, if they clear the minion wave at the start, they get to level 4 instantly. That is pretty good there, and that gets you closer to level 5. Like, if a god clears the minion line in the middle, they're usually the first one to get level 5, which means they're the first one to get an ultimate out, and that ultimate could be devastating. One thing, of course, is usually your team does the camps on the left while the enemy team does the camps on the right. Since it's 4 minutes between camp respawns, you just think about when you hit the 4-minute mark, you should probably look at the camps to see if they're ready and take them out before the enemy does. Taking control of the buffs camps can make or break a team, but don't take any bad risks, of course. Now here's something that is surprising how many people don't think about this, and that is when it comes down to the last 10 tickets. And when it comes down to the last 10 tickets, you only have to worry about god kills, the big minions getting into portal, and of course the escorts. If you're behind, you should play defensively. Like say, you have 10 tickets and the enemy has 40 tickets. That means, right now, when they kill one of the big minions, they only get 1 ticket, so you go down to 9, but you can still kill a wave and bring it down more closer. So, when you only have 10 tickets left and the enemy's ahead of you, you should play defensive, don't let anyone get killed, keep killing the minion waves, and your enemy is forced to be the ones to be aggressive, and if they aggress incorrectly, you can just swallow them up and kill them if you need to. But if neither side is really attacking each other and both sides are defensive, by the time you're at 5 or 6 tickets, they'll be at 10 tickets as well. And it'll come down to you needing 2 kills and them needing 1 to 2 kills to win the game. That's a lot better than when you were at 10 and they were at 40 tickets for sure. And lastly, on the other side of things, say you got a really good lead, but now they're starting to wreck your team, and maybe they're at the last 10 tickets. They have 10 tickets left, you have 60 or so tickets left, but they're really doing good damage and they will kill your gods if you're not careful. And you might want to slow go it. When you're at 60 plus tickets while they're at 10 tickets, if you just kill the big minions, you can still win the game at about 10 or 9 tickets while they only have 0 tickets. Like, that's something you can do. That's just something to consider is, when it comes down to the last 10 tickets, what is more in your favor? But always think about the fact that the points get really close to being low together when you're at the end of the game. It's just something to think about. Of course, you're down by 100 tickets, it's going to take a miracle to win. I've done it before, but it takes a lot of work to do it. But when it comes close like that, you want to be defensive and passive up so that it gets closer and then you can just win through the last 1 or 2 kills. In conclusion, the idea behind this guide is to make you think and consider things so that you can just do better at the game. You have more information now, hopefully, from this guy, because I gave out a lot of information. If you actually know all this, good for you. Good for you. But some people do not know all of this, and they don't have to take my advice. But I think this is just sound advice to give out, at least to consider, to help people get better at the game. So there you go, that is the guide right there. And if you have anyone you think could improve an arena, give them this guide so they can get better at it. I think it is very useful. And there you go, that is the guide. I had fun making it. Hope you had a lot of fun watching it and listening to it. And that's what it's all about, isn't it? Having fun. Thanks for coming by, and see you next time.